Hey, welcome to the Tuesday night Principal Chiropractic broadcast, sponsored by DE and Band of Brothers throughout the world. Tonight, we have a special guest. I love people that I really don't know that well. I met Katie several times, but really don't know her story, so I'm looking forward to hearing it, just like you guys should be. Before we get started, I want to make sure that Kat was talking. We were just talking to Kat. DE is April 21st to 23rd. We are 24th, excuse me, and it is spring break time in Sarasota, Florida, and Florida is open up and people are flocking to Florida. So if you're coming to DE, you need to sign up for your hotel now. Earlier the better, because things are starting to get booked up fast. So please book up early, sign up, get scheduled as soon as you can, because it's important and it'll be booked up. You have to be finding other places. And again, it's spring break during that time. So get there. I just left there this weekend. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I wish DE was there because I was missing you all. So I'm fired up for April. And tonight, our guest speaker is Katie Gay. Many of you know her. She's been around DE for her husband for a long time. Big ICA people. She's a member of the ICA and a member of the ICPA. And she's been in practice for 18 years. Started for the first 8 years in Connecticut. Married some guy in Maine named Pete, and they have been practicing together at two different clinics, one in Kittery and one in Kennebunkport. I think I said that right. So they got two rocking practices in the state of Maine. And again, very, very involved in the politics of chiropractic, keeping it to where people can actually practice chiropractic. So for no further ado, let's open it up for Katie Gay.
All right. Happy Tuesday. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm super excited to be here. So I kind of had a little idea of some thought flashes I'd been having throughout the day that I might talk about. But Andy had, when we were talking earlier, said that he didn't really know a lot of my story. So I can touch on that real quick. I was fortunate enough to have been told by my innate when I was about 5 that I was going to be a chiropractor. Had no idea what a chiropractor was, no idea what a chiropractor did, had never been to a chiropractor. But fast forward, I kept following that path the whole way. So long story short, because I've told my story in different places before, but long story short is when I was in undergrad for pre-chiropractic, I figured, hey, I should really figure out what this is. I'm going to look to get a job. So I called around. I went to the University of Hartford in Connecticut, called around to a bunch of different offices looking for a job. People were like, oh, no, we don't have room for you, whatever. And then this one guy referred me to Dr. George Curry. So I started working as a CA for him when I was in undergrad. And that was my very first chiropractic experience. Literally had no idea what it was. And by the grace of God, I started working for him because that's really where I learned everything. So I remember at the very beginning, he actually set me in the back room with different chiropractic books. There were some Green books. There were some Fred Barge books, some Dr. Sid books. And he was like, okay, go ahead and read these. And I was like, am I getting paid for this? Like, I'm in college. So it was amazing, amazing, amazing experience. So my first DE ever was my 21st birthday, the January DE at the Waverly. And then I left for Palmer College that July. So I've been in practice since 2004. When I got out of Palmer, I went back to Connecticut and I practiced there. And that was amazing. I am from there originally, so that's where my family is. And we had the Band of Brothers. We started the Band of Brothers at Steve's office while I was there, and that was great. We did a bunch of Saturday Night Lives. I got to be really got to know a lot of people through that and through organizing that, picking them at the airport, doing whatever. So, but I started going to DE regularly 2008. So a couple years in practice. I was 4 years in practice, I think, when I first started going. And never missed until my nephew was born. So I love DE. It really has made me who I am as a person. If you've heard me talk before, I've talked about I didn't come from like the most affectionate, loving, that kind of family. And so when I first started going to DE, it was really uncomfortable for me to have people that I didn't know hug me or say, I love you or love and appreciate you. And was like, what are these crazy people doing? And I have really, really grown into that. So it has been amazing. And that's all from just being there. So that being said, though, I thought that this January DE was fantastic. And I know everybody says after every DE, oh, the best ever. And a lot of times when you're at DE, they talk about like a theme. And I was thinking about that a little bit on the way home from DE, and how the theme is really just whatever you have going on at the time, and whatever you're really picking up on. So everybody's talks, love you too, Paula. Paula, when I visited Paula's office one time in Florida, I don't know, a million years ago, I was early in practice. She told me to hug everyone. And I went back to my practice and started hugging people, and they all started dropping out. And that's when I realized you had to do what was authentically you. So in the last, 15 years since then, I've come a really long way, and now I can hug them. So I absolutely love Paula and how she's helped me. So anyway, that being said, so I think the theme is really what you are either getting or leaving behind at each CE. So I was thinking about, we used to mentor with Dr. Sigafus, and if you guys have ever heard Sig talk, he talked about the book, The Fourth Dimension, like honestly, like a gazillion times. I probably wrote down Fourth Dimension book, literally never read it. He'd talk again. I'd write it down, never read it. And then one time I read it, and I called him up and I was like, oh my God, I read the best book ever. And he's like, oh yeah, which one? I was like, The Fourth Dimension. And he was like, it's about damn time. And I was like, hey, well, why didn't anybody tell me about this book? Laughingly, because he'd said it a million times. And that's when I started to think, like, everything is at the perfect time. So there was a talk at DE, probably like 2008. A lot of the kinetic guys used to go together. I used to sit in the front right, at the end of RJ's row. And Doug Dravin was talking about how everything that happens to me is the best possible thing that could happen to me at that moment. And the key to the entire sentence was at that moment. Because you can have all sorts of crap going on in your life, but at that moment, this is the best possible thing. And I think that resonated with me a lot at the time. But I think in that is when I started thinking, like, you can hear the same thing over and over, and until you're ready, until you're open, it's not gonna connect with you at all. So along that story of a book, RJ had talked about the book The Shack, again, a million years ago. I think it came out in like 2015 or 14. Now it's a movie. And I had written that down many times. And sillily enough, I wrote it down like Shaquille O'Neal, like didn't even know what he was talking about, but wrote it down, never thought about it, never paid attention to it. And then we live on the beach. And so if you're looking for me in the summer, you can find me laying on the beach reading a book. It's where I am all the time. Everybody knows that, all my neighbors. So my neighbor had said to me one summer, oh, I just finished this great book. I think you'd really like it. And she gave it to me, and it was The Shack. And it was the perfect timing for me because at the time, my family had gone through a lot of stuff, and I was kind of frustrated with God and angry with God. And the book about The Shack is, this healing with God. And it was absolutely perfect. So I've really been a firm believer forever that everything happens at the exact time that you need it. And if you're trying to give it to me at a time that I'm not open to it, it's not gonna work. I'm not gonna be receptive. It's not gonna work for me. And vice versa. If I'm trying to, feed you something or teach you something that you're not ready or willing for, it's not gonna work. So after this DE, we came back. My practice is predominantly pregnancy and children. When we opened a second office, I put it in like the middle of this birthing Mecca area. And that's really what I wanted to do. And it has really been amazing. That's really what I've done. So during COVID, especially, it has been absolutely crazy. But during COVID, we also had to change a lot of things. Our state was really, really strict about things. Like our governor wanted people to turn you in if you weren't masking or if you had people or whatever, all these things. So a lot of the educational pieces kind of went by the wayside, like our new patient orientation or group reports. We started doing everything individual. And I've really been missing that. So after this DE, I was like, oh, I'm going to get back to doing an orientation and making sure that I'm really conveying the message to all these people. So come back from DE, and it's that first week after, and I have my office is absolutely packed at the current moment. There's probably 4 expecting moms, like very towards the end of pregnancy, maybe like 5 or 6 different car seats laying around, just like in my front reception area. And then this new patient. And We don't have a mask policy in Maine right now. I think we're supposed to, but I'm not really sure. So my line is always, we don't have a mask mandate right now. If you'd like to wear your mask, feel free. And if you don't want to, you absolutely don't have to. So I said this to this new patient, and she had a mask on. She sat down, didn't think anything of it. So then this other woman is leaving, and she was kind of like out loud talking about how she had just had COVID and she was surprised she got it because it must have been a breakthrough case, all these things, yada, yada. So then she leaves. So all these other moms are sitting there, they're talking, doing whatever. They've all gotten adjusted and their kids have gotten adjusted. They're kind of hanging out. And I go up to this new patient, introduce myself, and go to bring her back. And she was like, oh, and are you vaccinated? And I was so caught off guard because this is literally almost 2 years into this, the first person who has ever asked me. So I was like, oh, well, no, I'm not. And I had COVID. So I consider myself vaccinated by God. And I left it like that. And I do her new patient visit, and she was referred to me by her doula, which happens all of the time. And when she called my office, she said, I'm referred by my doula. I just want to make sure that I can have, an amazing pregnancy and birth and all the buzzwords. Fine. So then I'm reading her paperwork, and it says the baby's breech, and she has OCD, and she's on Prozac, and she had a concussion in 2007. So I was talking to her, and I was like, oh, okay, so tell me a little bit about your OCD. And she was like, oh, it's totally managed with Prozac. I've been on it for 6 or 7 years. I saw on the paperwork she has a 2-year-old too. So I was like, okay, so all through that pregnancy, all through this pregnancy. She said, and I said, okay, so like, what are your triggers? And she said, well, it's called, I think it's called intrusive OCD. She said, but basically what that is you think like thoughts of harm towards yourself and your family. I was like, oh, okay, that's a big one. So then I said, well, tell me about this concussion. Or at first I said, well, so how did this come on? She said, oh, it just came out of the blue one day. They have no idea, but it's totally managed with Prozac. It's fine. Okay. So then I was like, okay, tell me about this concussion. She was like, oh, I was a flyer on my cheerleading team, and they dropped me straight on my head, and I had a concussion. And that was like 5 to 6 years before this OCD came on. I'm like, okay. So I do a scan on her, and obviously the top of her neck is totally like off the charts on her scan. And I said, well, when we look at this area, because it's around your brainstem and the chemistry of your brain, right? You guys are all chiropractors, so you know it. But I'm explaining that to her. And I was trying to get her to see that, this anxieties and OCDs and depressions and insomnias and stuff are usually very closely related to this. And she was like, do you really think that that could be connected? I was like, I do really believe that that could be connected, but we can see. My job is just to line you up, let your body do what it's supposed to do. Here, I think it's going amazing, right? So she's pregnant. I'm not going to take any films on her, get her adjusted that day. It's great. She seems happy. I seem happy. Told my husband that night, I was like, so this lady asked me if I was vaccinated. I don't really know. And then I was like, kind of caught me off guard. Maybe I should have been like a little more finesse to it. He's like, oh, well, maybe we should think of, how to approach it if that happens again, whatever. Next morning, I get this email from her saying, oh, thank you so much. I'm going to not be resuming care with you, and I hope you have a really healthy and safe year. And I was like, okay. So then I was so frustrated. If you know Enneagrams, I'm an 8. I'm very anger driven. Like if you get me fired up, that's how you get me. I was so frustrated because I think when I was early in practice, I would have been like, I failed her. But now instead I think like her fear of COVID is really what made it not even happen. So like, just kind of when I was talking about like the books and being open, she wasn't even open at this point because she's so afraid of COVID that I couldn't teach her or tell her anything that could potentially change her life, literally change her life. I mean, when you have OCD that makes you have negative thoughts about yourself and your family, that is a life-changing situation. So I really was very, very frustrated in terms of we as a profession need to be in the society where that's not even an option. Like whether you're afraid of something or not, like you need to be expressing life. You need to be the best mom that you can be. So as God would have it, always gives you like what you needed the next time. So that was the Thursday and then the weekend. So then on Monday, I have this woman I've been taking care of. She is a little bit older. I think she's I think she's 60, and she lives in this disability housing up the street from my office. She walked in one day during the middle of COVID, didn't have mask, didn't have anything, and she was like, "I'm not pregnant, but I really think that you can help me." I was like, "Oh, great, I can help you." So fast forward her story. She was a mega yacht captain, this massive yacht captain for this uber wealthy couple. And she had an accident basically where she got stuck between, I'm not a boater, but I watched below deck. So like the dock and the boat, she got squished, I guess, in there. And she was bedridden for 18 years. So fast forward when she gets to me, she's basically not bedridden anymore, but they have to, in order for her to be able to drive, she has to be able to get like motion back in her ankles and all these different things that I honestly, I don't really know. So when she came to me, she came because she was in chronic pain, but she also knew that there was something else. And I have no idea how she knew that there was something else that I had to offer. And I swear, I didn't really know. So I think what I got good at during COVID was just loving on my people, loving on them and speaking faith and love and hope into them. So this woman, I take films of her. I look at her atlas. I'm toggling her. She is doing amazing. And I don't really know pain wise, but the things she would talk about, she would be like, "Oh, I can do yoga now, and I haven't been able to do that, and that makes me happier. I can walk X amount," because she doesn't have a car, so she just walks around our town and really just walks to the library or walks to the water. Um, and she was like, "I can walk for longer now, and that makes me happy, and I can breathe." And so she'd been saying all these things, and throughout her re-exam, she's been like, "Oh, I can breathe better." She had chronic insomnia. Some of it's the environment that she's into, which is terrible. But she can sleep. So this thing happens with the pregnant woman on Thursday. So then Shar comes in on Monday, and she always asks, like, she'll always be like, "Oh, how's my atlas doing today?" And when she's clear, she gets ecstatic like a little kid. She's like, "Ah, yay!" So that Monday, her atlas was clear and she was so excited. And she said, "Oh, I love it." She said, "But at the same time, I really just love when you adjust my atlas, I feel like I become me again. My personality comes out and I just feel so alive." And all I could think to myself was, you're like the perfect person to have after this other woman who all I wanted for this poor other lady was life. But Shar really honestly gets it. And it's really, really awesome to watch her evolve. And she'll make comments like, "Oh, I'm like the oldest person here." Or I was like, "Sure, you're perfect to be here. Like, you're amazing." Today she was in there. Today I adjusted 2 newborn twins and then another newborn family back to back. And she was sitting there and she was like, "Sometimes I just love sitting here and watching it." So long story short with her, she's doing amazing. I have kept her at twice a week. I very rarely even adjust her once a week. It's usually like every 10 days or something like that. But I've kept her at twice a week because I know that I'm the only one loving on her. And I know that, she's in my office for like 32 seconds, but I know that that's the smiling face, the person who tells her she's amazing, the person who tells her, like, I always tell her, I'm like, "You are a ball of energy and I absolutely love that you're here and you're doing amazing." And she doesn't get that anywhere else. And sometimes I think, that's obviously, though that's something peace, right? But sometimes even more, because I talk so fast because I'm from Connecticut, even more important than the amazing adjustment that we have to deliver to them is that love and that faith and that hope. And so I really just try to funnel that into my office. And same thing, because I'm really in the birthing world and I feel like birth has changed even in my practice. When I started practicing, the pregnant body was sacred. We didn't put anything into it, a Tylenol, you didn't eat fish, all these things, right? Now it's amazing what they tell moms to do or what shot they should get or what they can take. And I'm definitely not of that school of thought. And so what happens is a lot of moms who want to be more natural and think more like we do, they almost feel like they're on an island. So when they come in, I just speak that into them all the time. Like, your body is amazing. Like, think of how great you're doing. This is incredible. You've built this baby all on your own. And I talk to them about birth that way too. And, you're incredible. You can do this and you have everything you need in you right now. So that's really it for me, is just loving on them. I feel like through DE and through all the years of DE, the amazing relationships, my very best friends are people from DE. I mean, Tracy Emlinger and I pre-COVID were inseparable. But soon we're going to be back together in real life instead of on FaceTime all the time. I visited many of your offices before and built amazing relationships with you. I vacationed with RJ Kelly a ton, and I'm so grateful for that time and those memories, because obviously he's not with us anymore. And all the things that I learned from the people in those rooms through the year. So this time when we were at DE and they had everybody raise their hands, who's new, it really warms my heart to think that there's so many new people there, and that they can get this and encompass this. When I have people ask me about being a chiropractor, and I don't know if this is just, I think this is everyone, but maybe from a female perspective, a lot of women will talk to me about it. And they'll ask me about, how is it for your life? And I think one of the coolest things about chiropractic is you can practice any way you want. Principle, that's this, right? But you can design your practice any way you want. You can, work a lot of hours or a short amount of hours or early mornings, or, like Liz Russell has a practice in her home. You can do anything you want and make it be around your family or around your life or whatever you need it to be. And it can still be amazing. You will still impact hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lives and help these people to live their very, very best life. So that's what I try to tell people and try to teach people, is like anything you want in the world, you can get there with this avenue of chiropractic and make it be what you need for your lifestyle. I think I'm so grateful that I had no idea what innate intelligence was when I was 5, and that I just kept listening, and that my parents were, my dad was just like, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. And my parents just, encouraged me to do whatever. And now they're like raving fans, absolute fanatics for chiropractic. But fortunately, I just kept listening and fell into the right hands. And I say fortunately, like educatedly, I say fortunately, but obviously God had a plan and laid all the pieces out long before me. And I was just listened is really the key, right? So I absolutely love and appreciate all of you. Thank you for spending your Tuesday night with me and letting me share with you. And I look forward to seeing everyone really, really soon.
Girl, you absolutely crushed it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you see all the comments on the board there?
I saw some of them. I don't know where to get them.
People were loving you. I promise you that. People were loving you. Absolutely. And, I took a few things out of it. One, when the student's ready, the teacher shows up, right? I mean, I remember RJ talking about the shack. Well, I waited till the movie came out. Then I went back and read the book, right? And the fourth dimension, I read it several times. And I just, for me, we just I read a book about 30 years ago by Edwin Gaines about prosperity, and we just read it again. It's like, my God, I need it again. You know what I'm saying? So when the student's ready, the teacher shows up, and then just being open and being ready. That was awesome. I appreciate you so much, and I could tell by the board, people were resonating with you and loving it. So that was awesome. That was great. All right. Again, thank you for doing this. I know everything was amazing, and we're going to hear from your husband here in a week or two. Is that right?
I think next month.
Next month. Okay. All right. Well, we're looking forward to that, and we can't wait to give you a great big hug at DE. Appreciate it. And hopefully the Amlingers will all be there to join us all, right?
That's right.
Hopefully. All right. Thank you again for doing it. Everybody have a great night. Make sure you sign up for DE, get your hotel room, because it's going to be epic this time. I promise you. And people like her are going to be there to share with you. So get there, sign up fast. Love you all. Have a good night.
Love you.